When you dare to share, you break the silence. When you dare to share, you speak your truth. When you dare to share, you use the full strength of your voice. When you dare to share, it brings opportunity to own your story. So tell it, be heard, and at the same time, your sharing is someone else's learning, inspiration, motivation, empowerment, and hope. There's always an element to each of our stories that remains a secret. For some, we feel it's a dirty little secret. Dare to share your untold story exposes these secrets in a welcoming and positive way. I encourage each of you out there to dare yourself to share what is yours to tell. When we dare, it is the courage to do something really important. Let this be a vow to each and every single one of us that we take risk, we brave, confront, and face what is, while inspiring and empowering all communities. So let's break that silence and tap into mental beauty. This is Salima Jadavji, your podcast host, a practicing social worker, and your mental wellness connoisseur. Welcome to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast, episode number 69. Until she believed in herself, the cycle of abuse continued. To all my fellow listeners, before we get started, I'm just dropping in a note to give you a heads up that this podcast might be emotionally triggering for you. We do invite guests onto the show who share openly about extremely difficult life moments with exposure and impact of what the struggles have been like. The intensity of each episode could have a variable impact on your emotional and mental well-being based on your own personal story. If at any point the topic becomes uncomfortable or upsetting to you in any way, please do not pressure yourself to listen. Instead, be kind to yourself, do some self-care, and perhaps give another episode a try. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our courageous and daring guest, Alexandra Pinto. Alexandra identifies as an immigrant woman who moved from France to Canada in 2014. While enduring many struggles of her own, she always challenged herself regardless of the odds she faced. Alexandra studied English upon arriving to Canada and then pursued further education and obtained a business digital marketing diploma at CDI College. During the pandemic, she furthered her career development and got her license as a mortgage agent and most recently, now licensed to manage life insurance. Alexandra had great pursuits to be an entrepreneur, which she has now achieved. One main aspect of her driving force to do so was to be there for her son and have the flexibility to manage various life curveballs while not being tied to a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. job. Alexandra continues to challenge herself to grow, face her fears, and continue to see the brighter side to any situation. She's a firm believer in affirmations and the law of attraction, and attempts to apply these principles in her daily life, which has evidenced the positive outlook on life which she has been able to create and manifest for herself. Hello, Alexandra. Welcome to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast.
Hello, hi.
Hi. I'm so happy that you are on the show today. I'm really excited, Alexandra, to have this opportunity to speak with you, for you to be a guest on the show. And, I often share that I'm really grateful for a guest's willingness to tell their story. So I'm really, really excited and really gracious that you're willing to be here to tell your story. I feel honored to encounter guests who allow me to tap into their vulnerabilities and draw on their strength, insight, and inspiration from the stories that get shared in the space. It means a lot to me. And it's really important that we take a stance together to help break barriers of mental stigma.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me in your show.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And so tell me, what is it about this podcast that has piqued your interest?
That's given me an opportunity to talk about my story, and also this is a healing process as well.
Absolutely. And that's just it, right? So in this podcast, it's all about bringing forward those untold stories that people go through, whether it's directly about a mental health struggle or something else. And one thing that we know is that no matter what a person's story is about, there is impact on one's own mental health in some way. And it typically remains tucked away. So the purpose of this platform, it's meant to serve in a way to break the barriers of mental stigma that have been conditioned in our society. So today, together, you and I, it's my hopeful mission that we both will have this space to encourage people to share and tell what individuals typically, have reservations for expressing. So I continue on this path to break down barriers of mental stigma, and I bring forward a trend, and it's called the mental beauty rethink. Alexandra, share with me what comes to mind first when you hear the phrase the mental beauty rethink.
The mental beauty rethink.
Yeah.
I guess the beauty is inside us, and we need to believe in ourselves, to believe in our worth. For me, is I'm not confident for the moment, but I try like all every day to talk positively to myself, and for the moment, that's worth. That's why I believe in to manifest to law and attraction, because if I don't do it, who gonna do it for me? No one.
Right. And so it's like this notion of embracing yourself. And there's one thing that I personally like about what I'm hoping to create is this idea to invite people to have a new vision or a new way to see, instead of mental stigma, when we say mental health or mental well-being, when you say mental beauty, you started to talk about the need to believe in our worth and this confidence and inviting strength into you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so this is what I'm hoping, that just by changing our language and being more aware of the words that we use, we can allow a more open and invitational process for others to be included. So these are really important messages that we are talking about here. So thank you.
Yes.
All right, Alexandra, I'm ready to unpack your untold story and see what reveals itself. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Awesome. Awesome. That's just what I wanted to hear. So let's get to it. That's perfect. Okay. So, Alexandra, give us the newspaper headline of how you would title your untold story. How would it read?
Despite the toxic environment she lived and grew, she's a superwoman.
All right. Say it one more time.
All right. Despite the toxic environment she lived and grew, she's a superwoman.
Amazing. How did it feel to repeat your title? Does it feel powerful?
Yes.
Yeah. It sounds very empowering. It sounds very uplifting.
Of course, yeah, even the word superwoman, yes, that is super strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you feel more grounded when you say it? She's a superwoman?
Yes, because I am.
Amazing. Look at you claiming that. I want you to remember that and say that to yourself on a regular basis so that you can feel grounded, and that however you've pivoted in life, that you remember that direction and focus. Wow. So empowering. Now, even though I really would like you to say more about the title, I'm just going to allow it to, run its course when we dive into your story, because I have a feeling that if I ask you to unpack or say a little more about this title, it might take away from the unfolding of your story. So instead, let's just get right into your story. So tell us what your untold story is all about.
All right. So I was born in France and I grew up there. My parents, they're from Chile.
Okay.
So my mom, she's a very strong and strict person, very strong character. So I grew up with a very low self-esteem, no confidence, and basically I didn't love myself. When I decided to come in Canada, 1 month later I met my father and my son, and then it was 6, 7 years of toxic relationship. It was psychological, financially, emotionally. physically toxic. I called 911 so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I was involved with CIS as well so many times. And I went to different shelter.
Okay. So lots of abuse in a lot of different ways when you came to Canada.
Mhm.
Can you tell me, Alexandra, before you came to Canada, you mentioned that, you grew up with a very strict mom. She was very strong in character. Can you talk about, if any, the kind of abuse that you experienced in France?
So she didn't hit us. It's not the physical. It's more emotionally psychological.
Okay.
Because if you don't follow her way, she push you down.
Mm-hmm. Like you got lots of put downs and
Yes.
yelling. Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She's very person who's protective, and I love my mom anyway.
Of
Even
course.
now, I love my mom, and I know like be a mom is very hard. We need to protect our children, and I think this is her way.
This is the way she knew.
Yes, because she lived like she grew up like that with my grandfather. He was very strong, strict person. So that's why she grew up like that, and that's why I grew up. And unfortunately, she's a very stronger than me.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when I grew up, and she say like, no, you need to lose weight, and you can find love with overweight. You can do things with because you're so on overweight. When you're a teenager, when someone say no, don't do that. Okay, so teenager, you're gonna do the opposite.
Yeah.
Yes,
Teenager for sure, but any age, as soon as someone tells you don't do that, that's the first thing you think about doing, right?
of course, of
Mm-hmm.
course.
Mm-hmm.
So don't eat chocolate. So okay, I'm hiding and eating chocolate.
Right. Okay. I see.
So basically, when she said, "Don't do that," don't do, I'm doing the opposite.
Right.
And
Okay.
even she said, "Okay, doing diet." No, no, why? Why I need to do diet? I'm feeling good like that. So why? Because she say, or because the other person, or I can't find love, or I don't deserve it to find love because I'm overweight. No, I'm a person. Like I have the same blood. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't understand. So that's why I was very rebelled.
Right.
And me and my mom, yes, we don't get along, but
Mm-hmm.
I love my mom, and I know like I have her support. But sometimes she called me and say, "Okay, did you lose weight? Did you find someone?" So pressure. And for me, like, okay, so you're a girl. Basically, you need to get married, have children, get job, and that's it. No, for me, I want to travel. I want to see the world, and doing differently.
So she had a different perspective or a different prescription for living life and the order in which you're supposed to live it. And you wanted to be more of an explorer and see what life is all about in whatever order.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's why we always argue, we dispute all the time. But that's why my vision it was not the same like her. So that's why I was the villain duck,
Right.
like they say in French, le vilain petit canard, the black duck.
Okay. Okay.
So because I didn't follow her way, like she want for me, like I know she want the best for me, I understand that. Like I'm a mom now,
Yeah, so she had good intentions and she
of
meant
course.
well, but her style and approach really affected your self-esteem and what you believed in yourself in that
Yeah,
whole process, right?
yeah,
So I'm curious, what was your relationship like with your father? You've described your relationship with your mom. What was your relationship like with your father?
yeah. My father, unfortunately, they got divorced when I had 15, and I I was in shock, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
because my family was very important. My dad was important for me, and then unfortunately, the divorce was very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Even my dad didn't pay the pensions, so that's the reason my mom, she never let us to see our dad
Okay.
because he didn't pay, so you can see your children. Basically, it was like that.
Okay. So there was those conditions that you couldn't see your father because he
Yeah.
wasn't paying for the things he was supposed to. But what about before the divorce? I mean, you said that they divorced when you were 15. So what was your relationship like with him when you were younger?
Oh, with my dad, I love my dad. My grandmother, when she said, if I need to marry a man, it will be a man like my father.
Okay.
That's why I love him so much. But then with the divorce, unfortunately, that cut everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not angry with him a little bit. Maybe disappointed because he didn't fight for us.
Mm, right.
So maybe that, yes.
Well, I'm sure it must have been a very confusing time for you as well, right? You mentioned that you were feeling shocked because you didn't see it coming.
Absolutely.
You mentioned being raised by a mom who was very strong and strict and had particular ways in which she conducted herself in the household. And if she was restricting the relationship between you and your father.
Yeah, because it was my father. They say, okay, don't be so strong with her. So let it be, or let her be. Don't be like that with her. And now, like, I'm not living with my dad anymore. So that's why, okay, my mom, yeah, she was so intense.
Yeah, I'm sure it continued to get intense. And so tell me about that disappointment that you felt when you mentioned I was really disappointed that he didn't fight for us.
Yes. Yes, this is emotional because even now,
Hmm.
I'm 41 years old, and even now,
Hmm.
yes,
You still feel it,
yes, absolutely.
right? Okay.
Because he moved on, he met someone, and then he has another child.
Hmm.
So now he has another family.
Family, right? Okay. And so it must have hurt.
Of course, of course.
Hmm.
Like he will be more with her
Hmm.
and not with us anymore. She has the relationship with my dad and not me anymore.
Right. And so that must have been something you were grieving, and maybe you're still grieving.
For sure, for sure.
So that's what life was like growing up in France. And that's a lot of turmoil that you experienced, a time of a lot of confusion and mixed emotions. And it sounds like there was times that you were nervous and scared also to do the wrong thing because, you weren't seeing eye to eye with your mom and you weren't sure what was going to happen next. But it sounds like from all of that, you did come to Canada. Did you notice if patterns that you experienced in France showed up in your life once you arrived to Canada?
Yeah, because I always believe in myself. During in France, I challenge all the time myself. So I worked in Disneyland Paris,
Hmm.
and for 30 years. So 30 years, I was moved to different services to
Okay.
prove to myself I can do it. Like, for example, I went to ride safety, and then I changed to speak with the public.
So that was a busy 3 years. So you did a lot of learning and you were challenging yourself and encouraging yourself to let yourself know I have skills, I can do this. I just have to believe in myself. I can work through this.
Yes. And that's why to prove to myself, not because I'm on overweight, that's me, like I can do things.
Right.
That's why I don't would like to believe to my mom and say that's not define me. I would like to do things to prove to myself
Mhm.
I can do everything I want.
Right. And so with that attitude, you came to Canada?
Yes.
Okay, and so what did you notice about yourself once you arrived in Canada? Did you notice if any of the negative patterns or unhelpful patterns were showing up again, or what was your experience?
Well, I came to Canada alone by myself. I was so scared.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's another country.
Right,
I have a basic English, so I was excited because I knew I have a purpose. My objective is would be to be an entrepreneur,
right,
but I didn't know how. How can I start it? How? So, but then I miss a lot my family.
right. You were missing your family. You were far from home. The environment was new.
Yes, absolutely.
And you mentioned when you were starting to unpack your story that when you did come to Canada, you did very quickly meet the father of your child, and it turned out to be a relationship that was very messy, very toxic, right? You talked about the different kinds of abuse that you endured. So, do you feel like you can share a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah, yeah. So I met the father of my child in a party, and at the beginning, everything is nice, everything is new.
Mm,
We feel safe at the beginning. So then the physical started, and then there I'm in shock. This wow, what happened?
right.
And then I called the police right away. When I called the police, I went to the shelter. I lose everything. That mean I had two jobs before the accident.
Sorry, Alexandra, when you say you lost everything, what do you mean? Are you talking about the jobs that you were just mentioning, that you lost your jobs because you were in a shelter, or did you lose your belongings in your home?
No, no, no. And no, I lose my freedom.
Your freedom,
I lose the job. But when you are in the shelter, you don't have,
your identity.
yes.
Okay,
So you not dominate everything. So you have, but that's good because you're safe environment. But because okay, you must to eat at that time. If you
mhm,
lose it, okay, you can't. You have a fridge sometimes,
right.
and sometimes you can do your own, but some shelter don't.
You didn't have the autonomy to really make decisions and live the life the way you wanted to.
Yeah,
Did it feel like for you that everything I've worked for has gone down the drain? Did you have that kind of feeling?
of course.
Yeah.
Because when I came in Canada, I was okay. I started a job with a restaurant. I did dishwasher, and
Mhm.
then I was also working at Tim Horton.
Okay.
So I was I was feeling good. Even it's not like that kind of type of job I want to do, but I knew like I need to do sacrifice at the beginning.
Like it was contributing to your goals. Like it's like, okay, this isn't where I want to be now.
This
This is the steps to get there, so I'm okay.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
But then he decided to 3 a.m. to hit me, and he started to the bathroom, and then he finished to the bedroom. I was in shock. I didn't realize it. Oh my God, what's happening? And then I called right away the 911, and they say, okay, we need to go to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, they said, we need to do x-ray.
Hmm.
But before that, are you pregnant?
Hmm.
I don't know because my period is irregular. So if you can check, please. And so they say, okay, you're pregnant.
So that's when you found out.
Yes, the same days.
Same day.
The same day I was involved with the police the first time of my life.
Right.
Shelter the first time of my life. I've been in the station,
Right.
and then I'm pregnant.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow.
Wow, yes.
And so what happened after that? Like what happened next?
What happened next? So they say like, okay, so you can leave the country because you have the court day
Hmm.
with him. We have the restriction, we have everything, but I was alone, pregnant.
Right.
I didn't know if I need to keep it or not.
Right.
Yes, my head was so many things to think.
There's a lot of thoughts happening at the same time, it sounds
Of
like.
course,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes even I was pregnant and I was so mixed
Mm-hmm.
because I was happy, but unhappy because it was him, the father, you know. Because if I knew, like, if I keep it, I was will be involved with him, like during all my life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so happy because I was, I will be a mom, you know.
Right. Right. Right.
And but I was all the time thinking, and I was also searching for resources to take it off.
Right.
And my permit, I didn't have the OHIP, so I need to pay.
Right.
So when I went, normally you can abort safely 8 weeks, I guess. I didn't remember.
Okay.
I was more than 8 weeks. So they said, like, it's too late. But
Mm-hmm.
the other option, it was adoption. And no, I can't.
The thought of giving up your baby wasn't something you wanted to think about.
Yeah,
Right.
because normally, you know, you have a baby is
It's a part of you.
of course is
It sounds like it was so painful, such a painful time for you.
yeah, at that time, yes,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't know if I need to keep it or not, you know,
Right.
just because I don't want to be involved with him, you know,
Right.
with the father.
Right. And it sounds like, you did keep your son and your son is with you. And it sounds
Yeah.
like from some of the things you described up to now is that it had been very much an emotional roller coaster where personally for yourself, there was a lot of different thoughts and emotions running through your mind. And maybe there was some identity crisis and what do I do? Where do I go? How is life going to work out? Along with all of the ups and downs in this relationship, right? At what point did the relationship change? Or for how long did this abuse go on for?
So when I moved to shelter the first time, I go back with him because I lose my apartment.
Hmm.
I don't have any choice to live with him. So and I lose my job too. And even pregnant, I couldn't do the stuff I'm not doing in Tim Horton.
So you were dependent on him financially at this point.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And so how long did all of this last for, like after you had your son?
So yes, it was a roller coaster during the abusive relationship thing 6 years because I was with him and then I go back to shelter and then the shelter I go back with him is a cycle, you know,
Right.
because I was alone, I was not working and I was with my son. Okay, so he's the father, so okay, so I go back. But then I don't support any when he started to hit.
Right. All that bad behavior,
Yes,
threatening.
okay, so I go back to shelter.
Right.
That's why the CIS was so many times involved with us, and they said to me, "Yeah, you need to make a decision."
Right.
But at that point, I wasn't ready.
Right. You weren't
I
ready.
wasn't ready,
Mhm.
and even when you grow up with a toxic environment, so that's why I thought maybe I deserve it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe because okay, like my mom, she was like that too. So
Right.
she wasn't physical, but it's
Yes.
the same pattern. Yes, absolutely.
So like all these different unique circumstances that you grew up with and then coming to Canada. So even though the abuse looked different or how you were treated looked different, there's the pattern. Maybe I deserve to be treated this way. Maybe there is something that I'm not doing right. Maybe this is my worth. Does that sound right in terms of what was going on in your mind?
Yes, absolutely. It was like that.
Mm-hmm. And so it even got to the point where Child Protective Services was saying, okay, Alexandra, you need to make a decision here. You're doing the yo yo thing where you're going in and out of this mess, right?
Mhm.
And so at what point did you make a change or make a choice that's different than going back and forth into that same cycle
During COVID,
during COVID?
during the quarantine, we living together.
So, what was that like to live with an abuser during COVID, during the times of like quarantine and isolation, where we're supposed to be, keeping contact with the outside world to a minimum?
It was worst.
Yeah. Okay.
It was worst because I was living with him and I didn't know when. I was living in fear. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know when he gonna snap, when he gonna have his bad behavior, when he will be aggressive, when he will be bad words to me.
Didn't know what he will say, when he'll say it, if
Yeah,
he'll become aggressive, if he'll be kind. It doesn't sound like you had any peace.
no. And for him, like, he's drinking and also
Mm.
he's smoking. And when he drank, like, oh, it would be worst.
Right.
After COVID, when the city started to open up its door a little bit, I
Mm-hmm.
said, no, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give to my son this kind of environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I decided to stop and I said, sorry, no, I go to my own.
So you eventually put up the boundaries and you started to allow your voice to be heard.
Yes.
Okay. And how did it feel to use your voice finally?
It was so relieved.
Yes.
Yes, because I wasn't talking, I was screaming because
Mhm.
I was so disappointed to myself because I left France to a toxic environment to do the same thing in Canada.
Mhm.
So I was so disappointed and like, how? Why? Could you stay all the time or could you come back? Like, it don't deserve you. Like, no.
Right. It's like you had an aha moment, like a light bulb went off inside of you, and you were like able to tell yourself, I actually deserve more. I don't need this. I don't need this pattern to repeat itself. And I'm going to make a change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I say, okay, Alexandra, you deserve better.
Right.
You deserve to be loved.
Right.
You deserve respect.
Hmm. Right. I love that you did that pause for yourself and you're like, okay, Alexandra, stop for a second. And I love the dialogue that you had with yourself. That is so important. Was that the point that was made it very clear for you that, yeah, I'm going to do it differently now?
Yeah, sure.
Hmm.
And also, my son was my strength because, like I said, I don't want to give him this kind of environment. So I need to change.
Hmm.
If I don't change, who gonna do for me? No one.
Right.
Don't the shelter? They helped me a lot. I was safe in those shelters,
Right.
but the cycle of abuse is always
Continuing.
yes.
And so you were doing a lot of things that were resourceful, by the way, from what I heard. Every time there was an encounter, even though you tell me that, you were so scared, it's like something inside you knew to call the police. There were certain things that you didn't tolerate, and you did make sure that you got help. I get it was a messy process all along, but it seems like the more you trusted yourself, the stronger your voice got until you decided, I'm going to be loud, I'm going to be bold, and I'm
Mhm.
going to make sure that I change this pattern. And you really took that and went with it. That is so, so admirable.
Yes, it's true. Like every time he has his bad behavior or he started to hit me,
Hmm.
I said, no, 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 I can't.
Right. And good for you. Good for you.
And unfortunately, like, oh, I'm so sorry, come back. And then we say, okay, we saw, okay, oh, maybe I can change him. But no, no, we can't. Because all the time we say, oh, the woman can change the man or something like that. And no, we can't.
Right. Hmm.
Sometimes we can do, but for my case, is no.
Yeah. So, Alexandra, when people come to see me for therapy, people are typically in one of three places. Some people are getting started, where they're trying to understand what they need to unpack, where they need to go. Some people are in the middle of some of their tumult, and they need some support to navigate and figure out how to go through those pieces and support during those particular moments. And some people are looking back. They want to make different life choices, or they want to bring some closure or peace so they can move forward in their life. What part of the journey would you say that you are in? Would you say that you're getting started, in the middle, or looking back?
For me, I'm getting started.
Okay.
I know like it will be a journey.
There'll still be a path to chart that you feel.
Yes. Hmm.
So, Alexandra, tell me, while you are getting started, tell me so far, what has been a healing signature for you on your journey?
My healing signature, like I talk to myself a lot.
Positive self talk.
Yes. And also I saw a therapist.
Okay, amazing.
Yes.
Good. Okay. And so you talk to me about the cycle of abuse and patterns repeating, and how abuse might have looked different when you were younger, growing up in France, and the different scenarios and emotional roller coaster of events that you went through back home. And then a different sort of cycle with a very similar pattern repeating itself here in Canada. And you talk about how things have manifested and how things came about. Can you talk more specifically about how your mental health was affected during this time? Can you say a little bit more about emotions you experienced, or thoughts that you were having, or anything from that place?
Yes. When I grew up with this kind of toxic environment, like I said, I didn't have a very confident in me. I didn't love myself.
Hmm.
So I didn't have a lot of relationship because I saw maybe, oh, because I'm so fat and I can't have a relationship. And I didn't take care of myself. I didn't do the makeup, nothing. I was all the time on black, try to hide my weight.
So you were putting yourself down because you were hearing yourself being put down in your environment, and you were making these connections, or you had these stories that you were telling yourself, maybe because some of the stories were passed down to you from your mom or anyone else in your environment. And so you're telling me that you were having thoughts like that, right? Like, I can't have a relationship. I don't deserve one. I'm not worthy of one. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes, correct. I didn't deserve
And
it.
then putting yourself down and commenting on your weight. And then as a result, there were some behaviors of your own, like not taking care of yourself or choosing certain things over and over again. And did it ever get to the point where it affected you? You wanted to harm yourself or anything like that?
No,
No,
no, no, no.
thank goodness.
Yes.
It didn't go to those levels. But what was your experience of feeling shame?
Feeling shame, yes, basically because when you are in toxic relationship, I was so ashamed with my friends. Even I can say I have a lot of friends because in this kind of relationship I stop all my friendship because I don't want to be in trouble with him, you know.
Hmm.
And it's shame with also for my family because oh you still have a problem, or you still have and my mom all the time, okay, I'm sorry, so you decide to be with him.
You like kind of self shamed yourself, like
Yeah.
you kind of punished yourself, and then you isolated. So you weren't talking to your friends, you weren't having those connections, you didn't want anyone to know. And then you also stopped talking to your family because you didn't want to hear it from them also.
Yeah,
That must have been so difficult.
I was so isolated. I couldn't
Mm.
I want to scream. I couldn't
Right.
because I don't have a lot of friends to talk to. Because if I have one friend, but she will say, "Oh, you know what? You tell me all your story all the time. It repeat, it repeat, it repeat."
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say, okay, I don't want anymore to
Right.
talk about or my relationship or
Right.
my, what's going on.
Yeah. And then it sounds like you bottled it all up.
Yeah. But at the beginning, you have one friend that you talk to her and you say, oh, that's happened to me. And, and you say, okay, well, so what did you do?
Right.
And, oh, I called the police and I went, but then you come back.
Right.
Yeah.
And then people question you. So then that didn't help. Okay. So, Alexandra, tell me, what's your key message to the listeners of our show? What do you want them to know?
My message is whatever happened to you, what kind of situation, don't isolate yourself. Say try to look to search for resources because they have a lot of resources.
Hmm.
But don't isolate yourself and
Hmm.
believe in yourself. You're worth it. We deserve better
Hmm.
and you're not alone.
Hmm. These are really important messages. They sound simple, but I think we need these reminders on a daily basis, right? It's a really important message that you're sharing, a message to say, if you face any struggle, abuse, whatever it may be, believe in yourself, love yourself, pursue your desires, know that you deserve better. I love your message, really highlighting the message of a person's worth. That's awesome. Okay. So I'm curious, can you share with us what is your game changer inspiration that's close to you that reflects your untold story? So at any point, was there like an inspirational quote or a book or a person or event or something that really became game changing for you that helped you pivot or was a reminder for you to get yourself in the direction you're in now?
Yeah, the those reminder is one reminder. I have a code for my mom. My mom, I know she's very strong and like sometimes she can be bad, but sometimes yeah, she has good to her too. That's why I love her,
Of
right?
course.
So my mom, she share me all the time a code like when one door is closed, they have always another door open to you.
Yes.
Always continue. Everything is possible. Everything is possible. Everything has a solution. So that's why I say to me, everything has a solution. So you have this kind of relationship. What's your solution of this situation? My solution is stop the relationship and pursue my own.
Right.
So that's why after I got my mortgage license, my life insurance license, and now I'm an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
I working from home. I want to be there for my son.
Right. And it sounds like this quote, which is really a famous saying, right? When one door closes, there's another door that opens.
Yes.
It really seems like you connected with it and it really helped you to look for a solution and help you pivot. So it's so nice that you were able to connect to those words. It's so important.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, Alexandra, if you can share, what's a cause or an organization that has been really impactful to you on your journey that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so those shelter who helped me a lot was one North York Women's Shelter. I've
Hmm.
been there for 1 year. And they helped me a lot. It was just in those shelter I was feeling safe or where I can be myself. So it was one of your women's shelter. The other one is La Maison, is a francophone one, and also to have this kind of French shelter is your country but safe environment. So it's so nice to have those, and you can talk with your own language, explain everything, all the detail.
Yeah,
So that's amazing.
I'm sure it must have been so helpful. And I'm glad they were both available to you when you needed them.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, so tell me, Alexandra, how can people connect with you if they would like to? What are your social handles?
Yes, on Instagram at alexandra.npinto.
Mm-hmm.
On Facebook as well, Alexandra Pinto. And on LinkedIn as well, Alexandra Pinto, yes.
Amazing. So Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. That's excellent. So we have a show notes page, so people can go to daretoshare.co and they can click on your name, Alexandra Pinto, for today's episode, and they'll be able to even connect with you through there, through these platforms. That's awesome. All right. Alexandra, guess what?
Yes.
You've just dared yourself to share. Congratulations.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you did it. Good job.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So thank you, Salima.
I'm honored that you took a risk and you shared your story. And in fact, I would just like to even take another moment to express my deep gratitude for this story that you've shared today. Enduring cycles of abuse that started from a young age and repeatedly show up in these different facets of your life, and sharing intimate details of the experiences that you had really has been nothing short of courageous. So I'm truly grateful to have been able to hear and witness your story today. So I have nothing but thank yous for you. Thank you for the deep conversation and for all of your daring, and thank you for all your sharing. Thank you.
No, thank you to you to have this podcast and this platform,
Mm.
to have this possibility to have these words so we can share our experience and we can do great things. And that's why, Salima, I'm so, so grateful to you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. It's been nothing but a pleasure. And this is exactly what the platform is for, so people can feel safe. It's an invitation to share. It's an invitation for us to empower, to inspire, invite people into the space. And just remember the risks and courage that you had to share your story today helps other people share their story tomorrow and the next day and the day after. So once again, Alexandra, thank you for being part of Dare to Share Your Untold Story and helping to be a voice in breaking down the barriers of mental stigma.
Thank you.
To all of our listeners, if you like what you've been hearing on this podcast and you want to be part of breaking down barriers of mental stigma, I invite you to go wherever you are listening to the episode and hit subscribe. Leave us a comment or a review of the episode and maybe how you relate to it. To learn more about what we offer, visit www.daretoheal.co. And if you are feeling ready and brave to share, please submit your story by visiting www.daretoshare.co. Thanks for joining in.